All right, welcome back. In case you're just joining us, it's still Moneyline with me on African Independent Television, AIT, where we'll give you a front row seat. Everything concerning finance, economy, business, markets, and investment. Tope Fasua is my guest today. He is an economist. He was the presidential candidate of ANRP. Welcome, Mr. Fasua.
Thank you very much. Good morning. It's great to be here.
Great.
After a long time.
After a long time, you were just on the hiatus on the show.
Yes, you know.
Was it done purposely? I think it was done purposely by, I had to do that purposely.
Push the political end of things, but all the economic issues we took to the political scene, they are still very much alive. So we're back to the economic and financial analysis mode. We have to keep on speaking about all the issues until they improve.
Tell me, just before we go into the discussion proper, were there lessons learned by you? Because, before all of that, or before we started seeing people like you go into politics, it was like, oh, technocrats should go into, professionals should, go into the game and all of that. Oh, politics is a dirty game, but if people like us don't go into that, nothing will change. What lessons did you learn?
And that's still the same thing. And then, of course, the professionals went in, and then people said, first of all, they said, go and give us only one person. We want only one person, And because we're not able to give only one person, well, we're not voting for you. We're voting for people who we believe they have the money. They've been there forever. They are maybe like nonagenarians and octogenarians and so on. And, of course, all of us put together, we got about 3% of the vote. I'm talking about everybody else apart from PDP and APC, So perhaps Nigerians aren't quite ready, but that doesn't mean we don't have to keep trying. We have to keep trying. And I always say that the few people who understand where we need to be as a people are saddled with the responsibility of dragging the rest of the people along, the rest of the society, the rest of the economy along, kicking and screaming. I mean, I was listening to some of the highlights you were given. China is growing at 6.6%, and they're complaining, and it's like the 25-year low. And then I was there. I'm still pushing the same agenda. Like, look, Nigeria should be setting growth targets at 15%. How can China? Do you know that size of that economy, $12 trillion economy, right, growing at 6%? So
Very
just look at
them.
it. They're adding maybe a Nigerian economy, the size of Nigerian economy to themselves every year. And here we are, we're still struggling. They say, oh, we're just okay at 1.8%. And a lot of people who, economists in the financial sector and so on, don't even have that idea of where we should be. Even just now, I was having a discussion with some guys, very technical people in the financial sector. And of course, a couple of days back, I was reviewing South Africa's budget. I was looking at it, because I was writing to the Senate Committee Chairman on Appropriation to say that, 8.8 trillion naira is too small for us. $28 billion is too small. These are the agendas I was pushing during the campaign. And of course, I needed to provide an update on where the South African budget is this year. They read their budget speech on the 20th of February this year. So the budget is in play. They don't waste time. Number one. And they're budgeting 5.8 trillion rand for the next 3 years. And 5.8 trillion rand is equal to 145 trillion naira, meaning that South Africa is budgeting 48 trillion naira every year. That's their national budget. They still have the regional budget. They have the city budgets and so on.
In fact, was it last week I was watching Gauteng? Was it Gauteng in South Africa?
I don't know how people
budget speech.
I don't understand why people choose to be blind to facts. You know what I'm saying? Like Patrick Moynihan, Senator Patrick Moynihan said, you're entitled to your opinion. You're not entitled to your facts. The facts are facts. The facts are there. Google is your friend. All you have to do is say, I also went and checked Angola's budget this year, $36 billion, 25 million people. And of course, one guy was saying, well, whether they are unitary system, whatever. No, it really doesn't matter. Whether unitary, presidential, whatever. Usually you would find a budget at the city level, at the regional level, at the federal level. Look, South Africa is budgeting 1.2 trillion rand for education for the next 3 years. That is 30 trillion naira, okay? Because 1 rand is about 25 naira, thereabouts, That's 30 trillion naira, okay, budgeted for education. That is 10 trillion naira every year. And here we are, 8.8 trillion, which we are not going to implement. We're going to implement 30. Look, for some reason, we're digging a hole for this economy. Whether so-called technicians or, professionals are elected into government is immaterial. What matters is whoever is running the government should understand that this economy is not going anywhere soon. It seems to be in reverse. Every time I say this, is oh, well, we don't have, where do you want us to find the revenue from? I'm asking, okay, where are they finding the revenue from in South Africa? All right, where are they finding the revenue from in Angola?
Where do you think we should get the revenue from? Because, like I said,
the revenues are all over the place.
There's a revenue challenge right now in Nigeria.
Well, because they want that revenue challenge to be there.
So where should the money come from?
They want the revenue challenge to be there. If you look at the tax system alone, and what do we call tax? It's not only company income tax, payee, and VAT alone. There are many. In fact, if you look at that South African budget, you see that at some point in time, they were even saying, look, excise duties on alcohol is going to be this. Going forward, on cigarettes is going to be this. When we tried to do that in this country, what happened? MAN, and some other guys, they came, we're going to close down factories. How can we increase? Look, in Nigeria is where you have the cheapest alcohol and cigarettes, perhaps in the world, because in Africa, we're the cheapest. All right, a pack of cigarettes in Nigeria, maybe like 500 naira. I don't smoke. I don't know how much they're selling. Maybe 200 naira, whatever, But in the UK, I was talking to a friend recently. In the UK, it's 5,000 naira equivalent. So people can come here and keep loading if they can escape it. If you keep it up, you're going to get 10 times the value in the UK and anywhere else in the world. And even in Africa here, even between here and Ghana, is cheaper here. And, so it's a case of balancing it out, to listen, we all are in this together. We need to move along together. Little things that we can use to assist ourselves, like a little bit. For example, for those who drink beer, if a bottle of beer was 200 naira and they made it 220 naira tomorrow, which is 10% increase, most beer drinkers won't mind because it's recreational drink. Most people won't mind, but if that money, now, so it's a combination of services. Number one, to know that is the government itself ready to show accountability on the money they collect. People are watching how you're spending their money. They are not happy. What are you ready to do to make people happy that when they give you money as taxes or whatever? So there's avenues in tax. There's avenues in reorganizing society. The simple things like speed tickets, simple things like environmental taxes, like fines. That's how countries are run. And every time I come out, people just say, oh, hey, the crude oil is not doing whatever. I'm like, what are you talking about? We did our analysis, right? Palm oil is like 4 times more expensive than crude oil. So what are we talking about, crude oil? So I mean, these are analysis that we put out there. I believe that if some of us hadn't come out, myself, Mogalu, Drotoye, some of these guys that came out, we put some ideas in the space, whether we like it or not. Those ideas are not going to disappear. All right, those things are going to keep coming back to bite us, whether we like it or not. Otherwise, we'd have left the space for criminals, charlatans, fraudsters, and all of that. Of course, a lot of those guys still won. They chewed us and spat us out, but a lot of those guys still won. But what are we going to do? We have to keep trying. I always believe that our coming out is to give other people confidence so that by 2023 and on, a lot more Nigerians, young people, forward-looking, who are exposed, who know how systems work elsewhere, who can do simple research, who understand how to use Google and the internet and so on, will keep coming out until we get it right because we don't have a choice. The opposite is perdition.
Okay. Let's take a look. We'll go on a short break soon, but I would, because all what we're saying right now, on whose table does it rest?
Well, it rests on the table of leadership, unfortunately. I must say that, what we realize is that, look, we perhaps put too much premium. The mistake that many of us made, but it won't be a mistake because, look, given the chance, I'll do it all over again the same way, But the mistake we made, of course, was to put too much premium on whether Nigerians were ready for change. A lot of people made that assumption that, Nigerians are sick and tired of being sick and tired. Then you get to the field and realize that, look, forget it. For you to shift this thing, it's going to take a lifetime or two. You know what I'm saying? It's about how much are you bringing. So we can't put the blame on the followership who have, over time, been dehumanized and they've been beaten down to the extent that they can't even think for themselves alone. What are you going to do? So Nigeria keeps trying every other 4 years or thereabout to get it right at the level of leadership, whether at the presidency, state governors, and so on. So if this country will move forward, I believe that a lot rests actually on the central leadership, on the presidency, for example. You know, what kind of rhetoric are we getting from there? You can't be a passive president in Nigeria and make an headway. You can't be a taciturn president who don't know how to speak, who don't know how to inspire people. No, you can't be an ethnic or regional president or sectional president in any way and move this country forward. It will never work. That's the reality. But a lot of the demands are on that level for us to say, this is the vision. For example, you know, or if you know you can't do all of that, you must be a recruiter of people. You must be a fisher of men. You must be on the lookout. But if you don't have any of those attributes, I'm sorry to say the blame is going to be right at your doorstep.
All right, let's quickly take this break, and when we come back, Uncle T is still here. Let me read the comment from Twitter. One for Obina say, "Yeah, nice to see Uncle T again."
Oh
so,
because of this, my great
so when we come back from the break, one for Uncle T is back. He's left the political. So we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Tope Fasua is still with me right here, an economist. Tope, now let's take a look at the cocoa of the matter, which is, that's according to the bench, isn't it? Which is the business of governance. And what came to my mind is at least the arms that we have the fiscal policy as well as the monetary policy. Talk to me about your own assessment, because for some people, for some analysts, they've said that in the last 4 years that the Central Bank of Nigeria or the monetary policy has stepped up to its plate. You understand? Has taken, now if not of even the Central Bank of Nigeria, we may not have an economy. You see the CBN doing quite a lot, inflation fighting, intervention funds one way or the other. Was it last week or so? Yes, well, last week or so, the governor of the Central Bank talking about cutting textile manufacturers on one hand to Bankers Committee, NISAL, NIPOS putting a microfinance bank. So like, you are just seeing everything. Yeah,
it's unfortunate. It's called fiscal capture, actually. When you're not shooting at the level you should be shooting at the fiscal level, then your monetary policy has to kick in. You know, I think we're lucky that at least the monetary policy is working. We still have our banks standing. Some of them have issues. But to a large extent, not only that, we've even moved forward in the level of fintechs and so on coming into play. You know, you have a lot of financial inclusion and so on. The financial sector in Nigeria has always been kind of ahead of the system. But I think that in the last 4 years, increasingly, we've been getting a certain level of stability. Of course, we went through a process at the beginning of the last administration. Well, it's still the current administration before they leave. You know, we had a problem with the foreign exchange markets, which at that time I knew exactly what was happening. Naira went almost as high as 500, 520, you know, as low as that, you know, to the dollar. And it took a certain, you know, combination of policies, you know, some of them out of the box, for us to be able to stabilize the market. And I think that kudos will go to the central bank, the governor. Yeah, because as at that time, I knew a few people who were taking a position that the Naira was going to fall as low as 700. And, you know, some of those guys, they're still around the corner. They're not going to let up. You know, I mean, a couple of times I've spoken about the theories of currency crisis here. You know, and there's this second theory of currency crisis where, you know, self-fulfilling prophecy. Whatever you say is likely going to occur. Currencies are very delicate things. You know, that if people go to say, oh, Naira is going to fall to 1,000. And people say, well, this guy in this financial market, this guy in this bank, in this investment house is saying that Naira is going to fall. Let me hold on to dollar. Let me move my position to dollar. In that instance, they were burnt, all right? Because what happened was the creation of the investor-exporter market, then they also started to allow the banks to sell PTA. There was no reason why a bank can't sell PTA in the first place. All you need is the documentation. In fact, you can regulate a bank better than you will regulate a BDC who are so many. You know what I'm saying? The BDCs are so many. A bank thinks about reputational risk and so on. You know, the MD doesn't want to hear that because of $4,000, you are making him pay maybe 200 million naira in fines. You know, so that was exactly what happened. So they allowed the banks to sell. They created the investor exporter. You know, they had a kind of two-tier market. There's a 305 official rate. There's a 360 or thereabout for, which is even, it went down to about 356 recently. And the market stabilized. And I think we have had that stability in the last at least 2.5 years thereabouts, you know. And I think stability is very important for financial markets, for monetary policy, you know. So I would say that whereas it is, according to Professor Paul Krugman, it's one of the things that have been noticed that in such a kind of economy as we have, where the fiscal sector is not doing well at all, the monetary policy sector will kick in. For example, the bit I just said now about South Africa, 48 trillion naira equivalent in terms of budget, right? I personally don't believe that Nigeria's economy is bigger than South Africa's anyway. You know, but 48 trillion, and anyone that's listening can just Google South Africa budget speech 2019. You see everything I'm saying. In fact, all the information is right there, down to the budgets, down to Johannesburg, to Cape Town, to Gauteng, to everyone. It's right there in PDF. Whatever it is you need. Here we run a very opaque system. You wonder what's going on. You know, so the economy seems to be under capture. So now, what we don't understand is that most countries budget 30, 35, 40, 45% of their budget of their GDP on a yearly basis. For example, the United States budgets about 35% of their GDP. So if GDP is 17 trillion in the US, for example, you know, the US will be budgeting at least about give or take $4 trillion, $6 trillion on a yearly basis. You know what I'm saying? And that is how you reflate a system. Now, that will give a new raft of challenge to the monetary policy, right? But what we have now is the monetary policy is the one running everything. The fiscal policy is not doing well. We do budgets. We don't even implement the budget. So we're not actually priming the economy for productivity in all the other sectors of the economy.
How much pressure is the monetary side, especially Emefiele, having right now? You know, for those of us that have been watching the space, at least we've seen a lot of central bank governors, and I don't know why. For Emefiele, it's not also different, or perhaps it's even worse. I saw that with Sanusi, that when they come into office, before you know it, they are all greyed.
Oh, yeah.
For Emefiele now,
I made a comment in one WhatsApp.
He's also very grey. And I'm wondering,
work in Nigeria, you know,
what kind of pressure?
There's a lot of interference in that office, really. A lot of power brokers are on your neck. They want you to do this. They're calling you around and say, you know. So I said, look, that work looks like a work for somebody less than 55 years old, you know, except you want to keep the work. If we see a scenario where, you know, if he's willing to continue the work, I'd say, listen, that stability has been established. He has put in the time. He has got the experience, because if you bring in someone new, you'll have to start afresh, you know. And that seat
what do you
has
think?
been...
Hold on, Tope.
Yeah.
What do you think? Because I asked my guest yesterday, Paul Alaje. He just came up also of the cuff while he was talking. He also mentioned about the stability, and also we do know that Emefiele's tenure would come to an end in June. The question now is, as a financial person, and with all those things that we've seen, do you think that the president should renew his tenure?
Well,
though it's at the discretion of the president.
It's the prerogative of the president.
Yeah.
But for the purpose of continuity and stability, and given some of the achievements of the past, if Emefiele wants the job, it should be renewed. In my view, you know what I mean? But I think it's a lot of dog work. It's a lot of stressful work. The entire economy is resting on monetary policy as we speak. The fiscal policy is not kicking in. Guys are not thinking differently. Corruption continues, inefficiencies continue, the public sector is not delivering on the goods. The public sector that I say could be a lot larger if only they were focused on delivering the goods to the people. But if it's about sitting in one secretariat, pushing files, making money, issuing contracts and going back to collect your own, the public sector is not delivering the goods to the people. So the fiscal policy is what it is. It's not repriming the economy. It's not reflating the economy. It's not incentivizing other sectors of the economy. Now, if that, and listen, and everything ties up, I find out that, okay, Nigeria is the most unequal country in the world, according to Oxfam, 157 position out of 157 countries sampled, Now, if we were not this unequal, meaning that more people had money in their pockets and jobs to do, nothing wrong with the 9 to 5, jobs to do, businesses to do. When people have jobs, then business people can do a lot more business. That means that the banking sector will grow in terms of deposits, and transactions and financial inclusion. You know what I'm saying? Now, you can see how all of this adds up. So the raft of challenge that the central bank of such a growing economy will be a little bit different. Because, for example, now, in the past maybe 24 months, our monetary policy indices have kind of remained the same. MPR still where it is, the liquidity ratio still where it is, and so on. And some of the banks are complaining that too much money is being sterilized from the system, that they would rather want to the cash reserve ratio to be a lot lower so that they can do a lot more business and so on. So I think that one of the things I saw about the current governor was when he came, he was coming from the banking sector, but he kind of set an agenda that was a little bit immediately beyond monetary policy, even as at that time, to say that, look, central banks need to now begin to set goals in terms of employment, for example. It's not particularly a traditional monetary policy role, and that's why you have things like this NISA, you have anchor borrowers, you have different, these kind of ideas. And I think that so long as we can watch all of those spaces and they're not doing things wrong and losing money for the system, I'm very particular about that. Each of them should ensure that, look, if these guys aren't losing money for the system, then they become institutions on their own. They can run on autopilot. For example, the latest idea about microfinance banks, right? If they believe that they're going to get across to the people who need the money better by deploying through some of those NIPOs units and so on, and they can actually do microfinancing at that level, maybe like the kind of Grameen kind of model. Because some of the other models aren't working, then all well and good, So it's great to be able to set, monetary policy goals beyond inflation. We're not talking about just inflation targeting, we want to keep inflation at 3%. I've said it here before that for me, I don't see something totally wrong for an economy such as ours with a double-digit inflation, lower double digits, 11%, 12%, not too bad. Where we're missing it is in growth. All right, so we can't, if you're talking about a growth at 1.8%, maybe we set a goal at 3.01%, and I think the guys in IMF or World Bank said, no, it's too high. And I like that of the budget minister and director of budget was saying that, look, why are you guys saying that 3.01% is too high? I mean, China is doing 6.6% and complaining.
And even in the economic recovery growth plan,
we should actually,
our growth rate is 3.5%.
Exactly. Even at that, I believe it's too low, because if you have 3.5% even, and you have inflation at 11.4%, and you have interest rate levels at 25%, I'm not MPR, of course, but interest rates, lending rates at 25%, 30%, you are in trouble. So what we need to rev up is productivity, all right? Productivity and economic growth is what needs to be revved up. And while we're doing that, to ensure that we don't have an economy that's skewed in favor of the tiny few, but an economy that's inclusive and, that closes this unnecessary income gap.
Is it that productivity that you think that the CBN has been doing under Emefiele?
I mean, well,
to wrap up that productivity with all
I would not say
policies of the CBN.
It has helped, it has helped a bit, like if you look at their interventions in the agri sector, for example, has helped. Even though some of the figures that come from there, I tend not to, for example, I personally don't believe we have 15 million rice growers in Nigeria. I don't know where that number came from, But, yes, it may have helped. I'm saying that, for example, if those initiatives weren't there, where would we be? You know what I'm saying? Where fiscal policy is not kicking in and you can't think outside the box in central bank to even as a few things going on in one or two places, where would we be as a country? And that's why, like you said, some people are believing that, look, if not for the central bank, maybe we wouldn't even have an economy, you know. And it shouldn't be like that. It's a very fragile strategy to run, you know, because if, for example, the Naira comes under attack, and that's done, you know, from time to time, if guys move against the Naira and start shorting the Naira,
and those guys are still
and they're doing
around.
it. Oh, yeah, they're doing it. Of course, you saw a report which I was discussing with you the other day. Some guys are saying that Naira needs to be at 470 by the end of this year, and we should be targeting 600. And what I'm asking is this: at what point did it become that the only thing we can do with the Naira is to devalue and devalue and devalue? Let's say that, look, Naira needs to be at 470 this year, and then it has to go towards 600 in the next 2 or 3 years, 2023, that's what they said. You know what I'm saying? So I'm wondering, are you saying that there's nothing else we can do? That's why I move against those kind of people to say, look, there are other things we can do with this economy apart from talk about crude oil and the Naira rate, you know. Every time they're coming, and of course, I think they're just foreign portfolio investors. And I'm saying that they're playing that second issue with the currency crisis by trying to precipitate a fall in the value of the Naira by way of you know, the predictive tendencies that I said earlier on. Because you say it's going to be that, and people are listening to you, so well, that guy thinks that. What if we actually, when we had a problem with the Naira, I also offered this opinion publicly to say, look, what if we also were selling the rhetoric that, look, Naira should be able to strengthen to 250? So there's a need for us to be able to balance that. If we leave the space to only people who are trying to take position by saying that Naira should fall to 470 simply because they are analyzing crude oil sector, when in actual fact this crude oil sector is actually the epitome of our laziness. If we were producing a lot more than crude oil and we looked at how those inflows will come into the country, then Naira could be able to appreciate or at least stabilize at where it is. You know what I'm saying? So it's a very dangerous strategy. It's a very fragile strategy. But perhaps for now, we don't have a choice than to have a strong central bank and a stable Naira at where it is. And of course, you're going to also see some criticism in terms of the textile policy, for example. And this is also a very good point of discussion because some people believe that, look, why do you have to regulate anything? You know, let's have total free market. Not even in the US, you have a market that's totally free. The US regulates steel, for example. They don't just allow you to bring any kind of steel. They protect the steel market big time. You know what I'm saying? Nobody does that. You don't just... So many times I wonder what some of our guys are trying to achieve by selling this straight-jacketed, one-track approach that all you need to do is just leave the market to determine itself. No, and I was saying today, if you can't regulate a market properly, that means you don't even have a market in the first place. Therefore, you can't even talk about having a market economy, you know. But you can see that in spite of the 41 ban plus textile making 42 now, the economy is not quite collapsing, you know, though the indices aren't where they're supposed to be because the fiscal end is not kicking in. All right, and people are actually justifying to say, okay, wow, this textile one now is going to assist that sector because I was worried about that. When I was doing my campaign, I traveled widely. I traveled to almost the states in the country. I went to, I think it was Kebbi. I saw the Wakot. I saw one big rice mill, you know, by Wakot. So later on, I said, Wakot, there's something about this now. I went and researched that company. That's actually West African cotton, right? So West African cotton has probably abandoned the cotton business and moved into rice because everybody's talking about rice now. Now, I was now wondering what will happen to the textile sector.
Some of those textile companies are now warehouses where they put different things.
Exactly.
So textile companies in Lagos.
Our problem is going to be we have a big problem with the cotton producer, the cotton farmers itself. Cotton, I think, is a very tough thing to produce. I would go and research into the gestation, how quickly you can, and people are talking about improved seedlings, you know. I've always talked about the researchers in our universities and research institutes making it to the farm. With the kind of population we have and the kind of challenge we have, we need to be growing a lot of cotton. In my travel, I actually never, you know, saw any cotton plantation. Maybe they were not in season. But chances are that people have cleared the cotton. It's better to grow what we eat. People are doing rice or whatever, you know, and then everybody has abandoned cotton, but we still need to clothe ourselves. So some people are saying that perhaps the government should first focus on incentives for cotton growers and cotton mills.
That's what I want to ask you now. Do you think that the policy that the central bank governor Emefiele now is spearheading with the with the cotton guys is a good one?
Yeah, in terms of the, I think they're going to have to do more than that. You know, I think I've seen something about the lending rates at 5% to cotton growers and so on. You know, something going to link up with the ABP as well. I think they're going to have to do that, do more than that. I think a lot of our policies fail at the level of not only implementation, but follow-up. Development is constant. Development is about perseverance. Development is about the control and the compliance, and you know, you need to follow the money to where you are sending the money to. If you cannot institute a process of control and follow-up and supervision to the very last point where that money will be utilized, then a lot of what happens is that, you know, money just goes to waste and all of that. Now, again, cotton is not like rice, which people eat. You know, you need to be incentivizing people big time. You need to be given a reason why people need to go back and farm cotton to a large extent in this country. You know, if you want to make it a policy, just like you have done rice and so on. Then you need to also get, you know, product of research to get on the farm. Let's see about, you know, improved seedlings, improved products, and so on. They tried something in Burkina Faso some time back where they used some GMO cotton, which was, the experiment was really bad. And they even had lesser yield, which was supposed to be more. They had lesser yield. I think our own scientists need to kick in as well. You cannot be here sitting down waiting for innovations to be brought to us in every strata of society from maybe the Western world. It won't work. So now is the time. All of our problems are telling us one thing. Now is the time for us to do it ourselves. DIY. Do it yourself.
All right. Let's take these comments before we end the show. Franklin Akiasoye is saying, Tope is not even talking about population growth of over 3%. That's a major problem supported by social, religious beliefs apart from inflation being high and economic growth being low. I think I've always talked about
when we talk about the 1.8%,
vis-a-vis even the GDP growth,
when we talk about
nothing
GDP
to write
growth
about,
at 1.8%,
which is 2% now, 2.3%.
Okay, fine. You know, and then you look at you know, a population growth at about 3.2%. That's negative growth. Certainly, well, that's what I'm saying. Now, look, we can't be at 1.8%. We must be shooting for 15%. If we find ourselves landing around 8% or 9 or 10%, great stuff.
Okay,
China cannot be growing at 6.6% and say that, look, this is our 25-year low. And here we are, romancing 1.8, 2.2%.
One for is saying, like Uncle T said, everything rests and rises and rests on leadership, and Nigeria has a leadership deficit. Nasiru says, Mr. Tope, every state through refund, that is the Rice Association. Every state through refund, that is the Rice Association, will tell you correctly that we have 15 million rice farmers and now produce 9 million metric tons. Let's just get more other comments and see if we can. Victor says, I like your guest. He knows his field, but please ask him if he's given an appointment to straighten Nigeria, will he accept it? To straighten the Nigerian economy, will he accept it?
We'll see about that, but we're not going to be throwing ourselves at the problem. You know, we're not going to train ourselves at the appointment because then you kind of lose value. But anything to make Nigeria work, that's the thing. Listen, before the issue of appointment comes up,
very quickly,
I want Nigerians to please do their research. You know, Google is your friend. Everything we've been saying here, always Google, always get your fact. You can't argue against facts, you know, of what's going on around the world.
All right, Michael says...
There was one issue there that I wanted to respond to.
We are going to end the show now with this last comment from Michael. He says, that's my motivator, TKF. I am listening. I'm learning. We must get it right one day in Nigeria. The question is, when will that one day come? Many thanks, Mr.
Please, that 15 million, we need to check. We're only how many million people? How can there be 15 million farmers or with different plots? We can't even, if we had 15 million plots of rice,
that will be for the CBN to tell us the fact, because I think they should have this fact. Thank you, Mr. Fasua, for being on the show.
You're welcome.
All right, I've been speaking with Tope Fasua, an economist. We've been talking about monetary policy as against fiscal policy. A lot of analysts are of the view that, like I said earlier on, that if not of the CBN, perhaps the economy will not be where it is right now. So let's see what happens, even as Godwin Emefiele is still at the helms of affairs at the central bank. He's not been removed from office like the rumors that was it some days ago, which I think is very bad for the country or for the economy. But many thanks for staying with us today. Be the best you can be the change that you want to see. I am Nancy Nnaji. I'll see you all tomorrow, same time on this channel. Bye now.